Welcome everybody at Researching German Ancestors presentation. My name is Iveta. I'm originally from Slovakia, former Czechoslovakia, and I will be presenting this presentation, which I created and slightly also updated. But first, let's do some short housekeeping things. Please, those people who are here in the room, if you could mute your devices so it will not distract other attendants, and our online attendants, if you could also cover your camera so it will not be distracted for some other attendants. But I think also who takes care of this part will be my facilitator today. And his name is John, and John is our archivist, Midwest Genealogy Center archivist. And maybe some of you already attended my previous German SIG sessions, which I do already from January 2013. And John participated in our April session. And it was just for those in-person attendants, and I would like him to participate then next time for that online German SIG. And I truly appreciate if some of you, some of you are those, they also attended right this weekend. I had a German SIG special interest group in person on Saturday. And on Sunday, I had virtual German SIG. You can let us know in the chat if you attended at least one of those. And this way, I would like to also invite you to my kind of holiday version of the German special interest group, which will be in our program guide listed under coffee and conversations, but it will be just virtual. And you can share then on the screen your Christmas ornament, maybe you inherited. Of course, definitely bring your favorite mug or even that famous like German one. If you attended, for example, Oktoberfest one year in Germany, so maybe some of you, especially those virtual attendants, I can see also in the beginning of December. And maybe also you are a subscriber of my German Genealogy and Beyond e-newsletter, which is called Die Schrift. And then you don't need to care about the dates and times because there is always listed also that next German SIG, except that special holiday edition on December 5th. Because that is extra. All right, but this time let's go already to our class. I'm going to turn off the lights here for those who came here. So thank you very much. And you can see better the screen. Thank you. And hi, Heidi. So I think this is much better, right? All right, we can start. Let me also, this doesn't affect those online attendants, but our like people who drove here, so they shouldn't see this ribbon. It would affect their view. Hide floating control. Okay, so now you can see hopefully everything. We could also turn off the lights completely. It would see even better, but I don't know if that would be maybe too dark. It's up to you. I don't mind. So many, I don't know, you can have those German ancestors who came here already in early, like 1700s, 1730s, 1750s, 1800s. The largest emigration of Germans was in 1880s. And so then you can see also those lands, they were constantly changing, and you can see at one point, it was a German empire, and you can see how huge it was. It covers also a big portion of current Poland and another country. And that part was Prussia, P-R-U-S-S-I-A. So Prussia, not every German state, current German state, was part of Prussia. So you can know then the difference. And we have also here the map, and also upstairs we have the maps where you can see in colors like what was part of Prussia and which parts of current Germany they were not part of Prussia. And actually on this old map, I can see even my place where I lived here in the western corner of Czech Republic, where very many Germans were Karlsbad, Karlovy Vary. As that Karl means like Charles IV, the Holy Roman Empire emperor. He was sitting in Prague, and because there are many those like hot springs like gushing from the waters, all that area by German border, there are many spas and those sources, spring mineral waters. So this is as it was as a German empire until World War I from 1871. And this is a map of current Germany. So you can see each state has a different color. And again, I can see my place where I lived, Karlsbad, Karlovy Vary, right here. There is another Karlsbad also in Germany because it means like Charles's Spa. And there are also three cities as the states. So it is Berlin, Hamburg, and Bremen. So, and you can see Bavaria is the largest state from all. So what is the key point for researching our German ancestors? So the crucial is to learn the place they originated, because there is nothing like a US federal census taken every 10 years, and you can here track your family lineage. Every 10 years, you see the whole family unit. You can see the head of household and the relationship of each person in that household to the head of household. So there were taken some censuses, but it's not that many, and not in all Germany, more, for example, up north. So records are not centralized, they are kept locally. So you need to know that place they came from. It doesn't need to be exactly that village at that time when that ancestor came here, because at that time there was not maybe a church. Now later there was that church built there, but when your ancestor came here, at the time that church was not there, so they would need to go to closest village, and there they would attend the church, and there would be created those church records. If your German ancestor came after civil records started to be kept, so that's even better, because then you would have two. You would have that civil record that would have a priority. And even if they would still like to be married in the church, first they would need to have that civil marriage. And sometimes they even would say, like, I still don't feel that I'm married until they were married in the church, but that civil record would have that priority. And you might know that we thank for those civil records to Napoleon, who even reduced number of German entities and also started to create those civil records. Civil vital records are birth, marriage, and death records, BMD. And so still that would be the best combination if you can find both. And you should start with that ancestor who lived on both continents. So you can see usually those civil records, but even those church records kept after 30 Years' War, from 1600s, even 1500s, they would be still sent to that matrika office or metrika, like civil registry office, usually in the city hall. And your city hall might look something like this one on this picture. Isn't that beautiful? Standesamt, AMT, that means like that civil office. So this is like town civil registry office, and they would keep there those birth, marriage, and death records. But like I said, even those old church books would be sent to City Hall. But still, if you think of make a trip to Germany, maybe at one point you can plan also possibly to visit that parish, and there they might show you even those original huge church books. They would still keep like in the church. So then history part may be something like another subject to talk about, but it is good if you also read about history, so you would understand why the records are not there for some time period, for example in Pfalz or Palatinate. And also then why they left, for example, like what was there happening. Like we know, for example, Alsace-Lorraine regions, constantly military, like soldiers were coming through those areas. So, and also after so-called like 30 Years' War, which started in Prague, so then a lot of records were destroyed, but generally we can find records already from 1500s. So like I already mentioned, also my husband's like earliest record from early 1500s, not 16, are in not in Rhineland-Palatinate area. So you can see here the statue of Charles the Great, or Karl der Grosse, who actually expanded that Frankish Empire, and it covered like current Germany. He was also coronated as a Holy Roman Emperor. And then another important figure or person in history, Otto von Bismarck, Chancellor who unified Germany in 1871. You can still find even in those earlier US federal censuses here that your German ancestor would list that they came already from Germany. Even before that Germany was united in 1871, you can still see even in census 1870, US federal census 1870, you can already see somewhere that they would list like they came from Germany, but we will also mention those censuses a little bit later. So roughly, there were 3 immigration waves. So first, even originally, they would come from Switzerland, possible, settled in those areas like southern Pfalz area, Palatinate, and then they would go up the Rhine River and then to England, and that way they would come to America. Second wave would be from 1820, as also in 1820, US government wanted captains, those ship captains, to keep the passenger list. So from 1820. But you know, like it might not be that detailed, and also not always they fulfilled like how the duty was upon them, but generally you can know it started from 1820, and also like they wanted to know like for customs and everything, and so you can see where they would come in the second wave and until 1871 when Germany was united. And then that third wave would be until start of World War I. And but there would be also that situation many times that one brother would go to America by the Rhine River, and that would just take like 6 weeks through all those. There were 36 customs to go through just to like up north to Rotterdam. And another brother would go up and through the Northern Sea or Poland, and then they would come to Russian lands. on invitation of Catherine the Great, because Catherine the Great, Russian Empress, she was a German princess as well. So, and as she also accepted that Orthodox religion, she invited, her first language was German, she invited those Germans to settle on those Russian lands and be also kind of like a bumper against Turks and Tatars. And she would give them many promises. She would actually fulfill those promises. So they would keep still their German language, schools, churches, everything, no military obligation. And they actually had many those villages, like here would be like Catholic village, here would be Protestant village. Then later, as they were really coming more and more in waves, there would be even created daughter colonies in Russia. So, and I brought some maps. We have also many oversized maps upstairs. You can see that. And in my January German special interest group, which is like a discussion group, and any of you could be also the presenters. So I will have a presenter, the president of the local chapter of American Historical Society of Germans from Russia, but he will be talking this time like how when he, as a very young with his friend, when they toured Germany in 1960s. So you can possibly know about that as well. So as we already stressed out, the most important thing, the crucial point is to find that place of origin. Maybe you already know that, but you might not know all the places because you might have more than one German ancestor. So hopefully also here those ideas will help you to find those other ones. And if you cannot move through that direct lineage, you hit that brick wall. So then you can possibly start tracking his siblings, their descendants, or as we call that abbreviation FAN, F-A-N, friends, associates, and neighbors. So there was one important thing that they didn't speak English. As I mentioned this weekend at the German SIG, now young German generation, like a young generation, they come from Germany and their English command is better than, and I am here already for decades. See, because as you come here like older, so maybe some talented people, they lose their accents, but I gave up. I will not lose it. So here are some points what you can explore, because there I go to various cemeteries and I see those tombstones where is listed, for example, that Johann Schmidt came like a Ruhe, so came like aus. There would be that magic small word aus, like A-U-S, which means from. So you can see that on the tombstones. If those tombstones are already like damaged by water, rain, like weather elements, so this is kind of maybe one or of a few exceptions that you can consider to check our books upstairs, because some of those books, like cemetery indexes or tombstones, they even list those tombstones. So those cemetery indexes might be created in early 1900s, so much earlier, before the tombstone was already deteriorated. And so then you can also track those. They always moved with them. They worked with them. They were godparents for their children and or mentioned in their wills. And you can also think that your German ancestor might apply for a passport because he would come back, going back to arrange a inheritance. He could inherit something, and or even his siblings could be mentioned even in his last will, because not everybody came here, and because they had more children, still those like side waves, those brothers, sisters, their descendants, like they would be still there. Here I'm showing you this wonderful book series. They started to be first like published in that dark blue, bluish color, published by Roger Minert, professor at BYU, and his students. But they just contacted those German churches in America, like those Protestant churches, Lutheran churches, not Catholic churches. But why these books are so good? If your German was not of Catholic religion, so please check these books upstairs. They go by states. And I remember like years ago how I was hoping like when finally Missouri will be published. And now we have already more than one, those Missouri and now also other states. And because they give you that last residence from where they came from. Because those churches, many times those pastors, they were called from Germany that we need pastor or priest who speaks German for our parishioners. The whole village almost, they speak German, so we need. And so when the new immigrant came, like, so that pastor would ask, like, where are you from? Oh, we have already these parishioners, they are from the same area. And so for that, these books are really excellent. And it is just usually two lines about that ancestor, but there is like that last place of residence. When you find the right place, then you can be so happy because, and especially for Protestant, because then you can go primarily to one German website, what I will show you later, but also Ancestry has more and more records as well, and familysearch.org website. And then as you find the right place, your immigrant ancestor, then you learn from that record his or her parents, then you can track all the siblings, then find marriage record of parents, and you, I guarantee you, you will go more generations back in time. And if you dare to read also that very old script, or really those 1600s, it's really, I need to enlarge it with magnifying glass, but we have very good books here, and then you can even possibly come to those 1500s. But some even those 1500s books, they are readable like fairly well. So you can connect letter by letter and just few words to dismantle. Don't be disappointed or scared. You don't need to learn the German language as a whole. Okay, so you just need one great genealogy dictionary, and we can help you with all that. So then we have also here more ideas. I also created some time ago German topical guide. It is just 2 pages. It is also on our website. Those blue links are clickable links. I brought some also here. And but we are working on a new one, and it will be 4 pages. Okay. And then you can always give us a call. And as I see our archivist, John, here, who is taking care of our online attendance, he also is going constantly through our valuable resources in our archives. And then gradually in that German e-newsletter, if you subscribe to that one, he has his own part there, and where he always features some great like goodies from our MGC archives. So those online attendants, if you give us a call or subscribe on the website to that German genealogy e-newsletter and beyond, called the Schrift, so then you don't need to read it all, but it is really worth to read at least that John's part. So I'm glad that he started to contribute to that one, and always find something fascinating related to the German research in our archives. So then also where they settled, there you would be surprised how many newspapers were published in German language here. If you go to Chronicling America website, Chronicling America, you can just type those two words to your web browser. It is a sub-website of Library of Congress, and there you can check what was published and also what is online. There was also a few years ago, like Newberry project from Chicago University in Illinois, and they even posted like you can click like check mark that small box window like that you want just German newspapers to see, for example, and you can type the last names and if that was mentioned in those. So there are various options. It's actually never-ending research, right, to be done. So census, as I already mentioned that for, I know if your German ancestor came here even before US when it was still like under British rule, American land. So they, of course, will not show up in 1900 census as I'm listing here the best for tracing your German immigrant ancestor and generally any immigrant ancestor are the censuses like 1930, 1920, 1910, and 1900, right? As we should work backwards from us because we know very well, we recognize people closer to our times and that way every 10 years, because in these four censuses was always listed that year of immigration. But if your ancestor came in 1750s, right? So you even their children, you cannot still find in those censuses, right? So then we still can check those earlier censuses and they started to be taken from 1790 and you can know that from 1850 on there was every person in that household listed. In 1850, 1860, there was not still listed that relationship to the head of household, but at least every person, including the little child, was listed by name. So, and if maybe your German ancestor from 1730s, 50s were already deceased, but their children could be there and possibly like those children, at least that oldest child could be born in Germany. And what might be helpful, even before Germany was united, that those early censuses wouldn't list Germany, but that principality or Brunswick, Braunschweig, or Lippe, or Hesse Kassel, Hesse Darmstadt, maybe. So that would be very good. You would know. Or for example, there I posted that example like Rhenish Bavaria. So you can know when that would be in that 1850, 1860 census. So you know that your ancestor came from Rhenish Bavaria, like where is the River Rhine. It wouldn't have a border with current Bavaria, but it was connected to Bavaria by the Ruhr. But it would be actually that part in south western part of Germany. So this is really good to check those early censuses if your ancestor came early. So this might help you as well. And I already mentioned that part. So then another option, what can help you. Here, right here on this floor, we have passenger list area. And if you tell me that your German ancestor came from North Rhine-Westphalia, for example, Minden region, it doesn't need to be the Minden city, but Minden region. So then I can show you these wonderful books because they are in German, but just 2 rows. And there is again that magic short word I already mentioned, like, for example, that Daniel Blume came like aus, like he was wanderer, like aus, which means from, A-U-S. And then when you see that short word aus, A-U-S, you know that it follows definitely that place of origin, okay? So you can make a copy then of those pages. Those Germans to America series, we have them all here. They usually don't like say the last place of origin, but at least you can verify the ship and when your German ancestor came. And Castle Garden, that was open as a processing immigration center like early in 1800s, and then in 1892, the Ellis Island Processing Immigration Center was open, and now it absorbed those records from Castle Garden, and now it is a museum. It is an immigration museum in New York, and so I want to go there as well. And I just added today this Bremen link because I use it, but I realize like, yeah, it's not here. So you can write that down if this passenger, like you can see passenger lists.de, that DE stands for Deutschland, which means Germany. And because I was impressed how they expanded lately. So it is a website of Bremen, like historical, like Gesellschaft, like that historical genealogical society in Bremen region, but they have links also like to various archives and even beyond that Bremen region, but actually their main website is called The Mouse, and there is even image of the mouse because it is like playing with word, like mouse, like this mouse, right, on computer, but there is that picture of the mouse. And then you can even go there when you explore that website on the left, you can even switch it like immigrants by places like towns of origins or by ships. And generally we know that why it is very helpful, because we know that Bremen records, Bremen passenger lists were mostly lost at the end, completely at the end of World War II, as it was like bombarded by Allies. But now they try to reconstruct those records, and there were still some they could preserve. And so now as I checked, I wanted to see, because generally I knew like from 1920, you can see them and very well represented, like all those people and ships and their last occupation and where they were going. But now you can see also some even from early 1800s, not that many, but you can see that you can really scroll down and click on those particular years. Maybe you will be lucky that exactly your year 1854 is there, and then you can go from there. If you're actually Bremen was the first port, as there was already big trade with tobacco with Baltimore. And as those ships were coming back to America empty, so they started to ship people in early 1800s already. And so then it started to be so prosperous, even Baltimore really was blooming from that. And as many of those Germans even settled in Baltimore. But then when Hamburg city saw like how Bremen is blooming too, so then they started to create another ship line, Hamburg line, and then it was then even stronger because also actually both of these ports, they took also immigrants from other Central and so-called East European countries. Hamburg passenger lists are on Ancestry, and we have a subscription for the whole world Ancestry Library Edition. So those online attendance, maybe your local library has that subscription as well, because this is a German website. So you need to have that kind of world subscription, but we pay for it so you can be at any library in the Mid-Continent public library system to reach that. And why it is so good, although in German, but somebody can help you. And even we have books here, like templates, what is in those heading, those columns. And so to dismantle what is there, because there was listed that the last residence. And like I said, you need to know that last residence, and every immigrant ancestor should leave some kind of footprints here where they came from, at least that region. And for example, there are some exceptions that even you may not maybe know completely that village, like for example, Württemberg tables. For now, it is one state, Baden-Württemberg, but previously when your ancestor maybe came here, it was just separate entity, and they are on Ancestry website. So those online attendants, but you here too, because you may not always come here maybe, you can always email us, call us, and I think John also will write that email. And we have also a query team, so then they can either move it to somebody who is strong in that subject, or that query team, they can respond to your email, and we can give you advice like with anything. Okay, so then we have also here books, Emigration to Russia, and those might give you those last residencies. But we have also upstairs books. Those Germans, they already settled in Russia, and those first generations, you can find in some cases also their last place in Germany or even Switzerland. And in 1906, federal government took over naturalization, and I'm familiar with that very well as well. So now it is called USCIS, United States Citizenship and Immigration Services. Previously it was INS. And now, as they took over, government wanted to learn more about every ancestor. So those passenger lists, those records were, and also like application to be naturalized, those were very detailed. So especially as that immigrant wanted to get a land, for example, so they would apply, they would fill out so-called first papers, like kind of like they would show that intention to be American citizens. Sometimes they wouldn't even finish that process, or they could even die before it was fulfilled. But there would be like, my name is this and this, I was born in this place, this village, and so for example, if even he was married there, and I came on this ship, the date, and then possibly 3 children would be born there already. So, and sometimes people say like, okay, but my ancestor, like all the children were born here. Yes, he was married there, but children born there. But you never know, some of those children could possibly die there. So, and more records you find, and you can be sure that it is your ancestor and not another person in that German village with the same name. Because it was very common in those villages that more people would be the same age. And as we can imagine that they would have many brothers. All those brothers would have sons. And those sons could have the same names and born similar years. So then for that, it is good to check to verify who is who. If more records were produced, that's the better. So this could be something like one of those ships, how they looked. So then, as you already know, the place you can check those red books because they will give you the radius of neighboring villages where your other ancestors or your direct ancestor would have families as well. Because possibly his father would be born in that neighboring village, but he would walk to that other village and marry like his bride, and he would settle in that other village. But his parents would be in neighboring village. So these books give you even maps of those Catholic parishes, Lutheran parishes, and all those neighboring villages, so you can see. And even if there was a microfilm, if those church records are already on microfilm, it will give you a film number. And write that down, because right behind me, behind this wall, is our so-called the vault, place where are all those films stationed, and actually you might not find that film anywhere else except us, Midwest Genealogy Center, as the largest freestanding public genealogy library in the US, and Family History Library in Salt Lake City. Eventually, we will catalog those films, so they will be also showing in our catalog by those villages. But now you need to know that film number, how it is listed on familysearch.org website. Then another fantastic website is Myers Gazetteer Place Name Lexicon, which was created for transportation purposes, but it gives you where was the closest church, closest railroad station, and everything, post office, military office, because if you have want to see some military records, so you need to know that closest military district, so this might help you with those. And then this is kind of my dream one day to create a class presentation, maybe with John's help, about this largest German website for genealogy. You can reach that more ways. So they have even meta search tab, but you can think of that meta search that it will be just searching in all of those tabs a little bit from each it shows you. So it is better to click on each tab separately, and I will show you what I'm talking about. So first, this is that Myers Gazetteer. What is good there, that when you click on map, it will show you first that old map when that village was a separate entity on its own, but now it can be absorbed by the town and it is a part of town. So then you can toggle between those maps. And so it shows you then where was that military district, closest civil registry office you should visit when you go there. And here is that genealogy.net or even genealogy.net is another approach to this, or CompGen. So you can see here, you can reach this website more ways. They have their own gazetteer, and they try to expand even to all Prussia lands, and those Germans who settled in Transylvania, Siebenbürgen, in Romania, Bessarabia, other countries. So check that periodically. So then you can see how it works. It shows you also that link, but as like under which rule was that place at various time period, it shows you. Where was that district office for that place? So this is something to explore. Okay, and before we will see like where are those records, think of that it was primarily your German ancestor who changed the name. So it was not those who, as there is like a rumor that mostly it was changed in the, for example, Ellis Island Processing Center. They had also translators. They just checked the names against the paper, but Germans, they really started to come here even much earlier. But their names, as they love compound words, so they might be really long. So then they even realize like, hey, okay, maybe I can shorten my name, or even teacher would encourage that. Or then they would even translate their name, which would mean, for example, occupation. So he could be Schneider, then he could be later Taylor. But now, as I see that trend, even one brother would still keep that new name, but one would come to that original name. As now people constantly want to search for their German ancestors, and also the DNA, right? Like completely change also our approach and open another doors and windows. So, and that is about those names. And because name is also very dear to you. So it was for them like a music to their ears, like the name their mom called them. So many times, like when they would see like how they wrote their names, Americans would say it differently. So they would change that spelling to at least the when Americans would pronounce those names or those Clarks, they would create those records. So it would sound similar way as they wrote that name in Germany. So they would change the spelling to at least like similar sound, but also that census taker was instructed, no, don't ask them spelling of their names, record those names how heard. So for that, like, don't be disappointed, like, no, this is like not correctly wrote, because that census taker recorded that name how heard phonetically, and then they would stick with that version. And especially when you see in that maybe your last name, when you see that the letter like vowel E after A O U, you can know that originally there would be the umlaut, the two dots above that, those three vowels, A O U. The same is also in my first language. And so even Germans, sometimes they don't type that. I even brought here some shortcuts how to do it, because it can show you slightly different results on some websites. And so that changes the vowel sound. So when you see that umlaut, those two dots, so without those two dots here, I would say Schaffer. When I see that, I would say Schaffer, but you can transcribe it by adding that letter E. Then also, the farms didn't change. It was for years, and it is still in some places that way. And also, yeah, because also former Czechoslovakia, neighboring country, the same customs, traditions, still people were known by those farms, even if there would be completely different family living already. And think of that also if he married to the farm as, for example, farm owner, landowner, he wouldn't have sons, just a daughter. So she would inherit that farm. He would marry to that farm and accept that name of the farm. So then there you can know like why that you hit that brick wall, or like, is this my family too? So you can check if he didn't marry to the farm. And so also names, of course, like were created by locations they came from. That could indicate maybe, if he is like named this way, maybe he really came from that Hanover area, from that village nearby. And in those church records, you can see even 2 names, 3 names. Sometimes I saw even 4 names, but sometimes I saw no first name. And if that priest was kind of like even didn't bother to write that first name, check who was a godparent. If the girl was born, she would receive the name of her godmother. If it would be a son, the name of his godfather, that first name. And all the sons could have that saint's name, Johann, and then they would be differentiated by that second name, Johann Wilhelm, or Johann Joseph, Johann Rudolf. And so if it would be Johannes, he would be like John. So then you can know that that call name, how they would be called, would be that second name, that Rufname, but still when they came here, you need to check under both. You need to check under Johann Wilhelm, later maybe John William, or just that Wilhelm, without that Johann, because that would be that saint's name. And then be prepared, take it really very slowly, gradually. We all needed to learn this German script, how those records were written. What can be for you very good news that you can be better as your I don't know, third cousin in Germany, because they don't teach that anymore in schools there. And actually that generation, when they still learned, for example, that Sutherlin, that handwriting style until 1940s, they are already dying. So there are not that many people who can read in Germany the German script, and you can be better than them. We have many books and constantly buy new books. They teach you every letter and everything, and I will show you also websites where you can practice. And we also show that in the German SIG group when we meet quarterly. Then you can watch also video lesson and family search website, where even when you see like, yes, that word starts on N, and so then you click on that letter N and it shows you, you can use Control F and you see, oh, that was a neighbor, Nachbar, or it shows you in that death records, like, so even if you cannot read all, so you can just maybe type with Control F like Lassen, and it shows you those words and you can see, oh, those are those descendants, those surviving, like Nachgelas, and those, they were left behind. So, and here just for an illustration, like what everything, like how you can learn and connect those letters, and you will see how it will be really rewarding, and that gradually your eyes adjust to that. But if you take a long break, it may be then later you need to start all over. But for example, I will show you here, this is letter D, and you can find it also here. This is small d, so it could be written like this. See, that D, this is D, letter E and N, letter E and the letter N were written a very similar way. Letter E in the past looked like N, just those, as it has like those two legs, right? It was just shorter space, very narrow space between those two legs for that E, and the letter N would have slightly wider space between those two. Like, so this is then. You can see transcribed here, and that is exactly in those books. So you can learn from those books, and then you will see how rewarding it is for you. So that then would mean on the, and then you know there would be following that date. So you can really practice here. We had really fun on many of those German special interest group sessions, as that is more, it's not just my presentation, because you can open it at home and practice your last name in all versions, how it looks in current, how it looks in Sutherlin, and all those styles. So then we have also, because German like ancestors, they were the largest kind of like a group of immigrants coming to the United States, but because they didn't settle usually in those large cities where the history was done, so they settled in behind, for example, cities. So you can see we have many books, but I just wanted to say, like, you would think, like, how is that we don't speak German here? Because they didn't settle that much in those cities where history was made. And so we have like a lot of books everywhere, including village lineage books. Those online attendants, we can do some lookups. if you already know, for example, those yellow books you can see on the screen are those village lineage books from Ostfriesland, that northern point of Germany. It is in the state of Lower Saxony and those islands there. So we can do that lookups and send it to your email when we scan those pages. And here is mentioned also my e-newsletter and that stuff. Okay, so then here are websites. It is good to check periodically as Ancestry constantly is adding. We have that whole world subscription. They are adding more German records. Even, for example, Lutheran Zion Church in America, you can find those places there are that first generation. They are mentioned with those words aus and that place like Aus Monsinghen, for example, where they came from Germany. So, and you can also check this website like Germanic Genealogical Society of Minnesota, as they are created like there is that partnership with many German societies, also societies here in the US. And you can go to website IGGP.org, which stands for International German Genealogy Partnership. So, and there are various societies, they are partners for that. And they started to kind of like, not like create or organize conferences. Every other year, they organize conferences. Very first one was in Minneapolis, Minnesota, where I attended and managed our MGC table. Second was in California. And so you can check, it is every other year. So then, yes, we cannot be our SIG group, we are in the library, so we don't take also any membership fee, so we cannot be partner for that society, but I can maybe explore if we could be friends, if they hear me to email them. So, and archives, there you can find also many records, for example, those Germans from Russia, they can be listed there even from the, like with the places in Russia they settled. And every village has a website. You can type that village's name, .de, and you can see like what shows up. Then change it to translate to English, and you can, for example, read history of that place. It is always good to check every website on that German version, because it may be a larger part about history, and then you can switch to English and you can learn, for example, when that church was built. So then you know that you need to go to search for a church in a neighboring village. And there are many also social media groups. They are even either general ones for German genealogy research, but also some like very specific. Like I showed you that Bremen one, but for example, there is one for Prussia group for those Germans. They settled in Prussia, so now like a big part of that is now in Poland. I just checked this weekend, all these links, they should be working. If they still don't work for those online attendance, you should have a clickable links in your handout. So if they don't work, just type to your web browser exactly these words, how you see. Just for example, Volga, another word German, another word research. And very first link, it should be that proper link. These are very good websites because they have village coordinators and even list of all those German immigrants in those places. And you can find, if you really want to find even that original place of those Germans, they settled in so-called Russian lands. So then it can give you also those places. And for example, as I mentioned, this local chapter here in Kansas City area, they even meet in our library, and the president of that local chapter will present for our January German SIG. And They even have those coordinators. They even visited those villages in Russia. So you can also then learn that history on those. Many Germans from those so-called, for example, Bessarabia Germans, they are still there. Many, they were called Zips German, Z-I-P-S, Z is pronounced like Z. By the way, this class is for 1 hour and a half. For those online attendants, you can know why I'm still here. And so in Slovakia, by like a beautiful High Tatra mountain resort and those mountainous regions, so they settled there from 12th century on. And so still some they are there. And but you might know about Sudetenland, those Germans in Moravia, like German Bohemians, for example. So when they, or Bessarabia, Bukovina Germans, Banat Germans, Bachka Germans, Volga Germans, as they were coming back to Germany, so they had to prove like, yes, we are Germans. Maybe when we are not dressed like you here, but yes, we are. So they would produce as a proof something like family trees, which would serve as well to us genealogists. And those are on Family Search website under EWZ files. So you can check those by those last names. So you can see it is that it stands for that EWZ, Ein Wanderer Zentralstelle, as that wanderer is similar like in English, wanderer, okay, emigrant. So here you can see a glimpse like how it looks. I want to go to Lincoln, Nebraska, where is that headquarters of the largest society of Germans from Russia. But there are various local chapters throughout the United States. What is also good here, because you cannot find that Liebenthal, which really sounds nicely to my ears, Liebenthal place on current map. So it tells you that current place is called Lubimovka. Even that has a similar meaning. Lubim means I love you, for example, like so. Okay, so your good friend should be familysearch.org website. I think you should start always with that one, as that is website created by Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Salt Lake City. And go to their catalog, and if you know the place, type the place. If nothing shows up, maybe you need to work with a map, type neighboring place, and go that way. You can also browse all the records there. You can also check other people family trees, as they might have already your German ancestor in their tree, but verify everything. Check what sources they cited, citation of sources, what is there. And keep in mind what I just discovered last week, as I was also teaching this class, like I'm teaching everyday class now. I'm warning you tomorrow that 15-minute genealogy I will be presenting as well. So, and I discovered that somebody, they thought they corrected my tree, but they uncorrected my tree. As Family Search wants to create one tree and free, one tree for all of us. And so keep in mind that somebody can like change your data in your tree. So you need to check that periodically. So let's go to those German websites. This was famous Norddeutscher Lloyd line, shipping line from Bremen. And so let's move through that Atlantic Ocean. That can serve for somebody to wake them up from my monotonous speech. And so here we are again on the largest German website. So you can already check, for example, their local heritage books, because original version is, it would tell you OFB/OSB, which translates like village lineage books. So then when you click on that, you can see all those, they are already there. Then when you click on one space, go to the left, and there you can type the last names or that place, and it shows you transcribed family trees. You can possibly even see who lately put that information there. They might have their email listed there. If that email is listed from 2014, it might not be working anymore. But if that email address is from 2024, so I think it might be still current. And as in that German group, people already reported to me that yes, as I showed that to them, that they contacted that person through that email and they were successful because that person would be living in Germany and maybe they are even looking for you. So as it is also a trend to find that connection here. So here is that meta search, as I mentioned that it would be searching through everything, even transcribed tombstones. Even keep in mind in those other countries like Slovakia, as there were every place in Slovakia, Czech Republic, they had also German name, German version, so including my birthplace. And I see it also on the German map over there. So you can also check that jet bus. You don't need to be that specific. If you cannot find your name by that spelling, just type the place and see like who, it will show you in the alphabetical order, everything, and see who lived there. So you need to really like, it takes some time, but we have time forever, and our ancestors are maybe waiting for that to be discovered. So this is the like a very good website now, which collects records from German Protestant, Lutheran, Reformed churches. As people started to ask, because they are working so fast, I'm so impressed as I follow them on social media, and they always post the list. You don't need to take that much on social media because those websites you go frequently, I just go to the upper left corner and it shows me their link to Archeon, and I see the long list of places they just lately already put those records on their website. And I like that approach this way, to go to all archives, and then you would see like what is already online. So here is current Germany. So you can click on that state or go this way. Here you can pick up the state, and here, this is for Bavaria, for example. This is for Berlin, Brandenburg. And those Germans in other countries, they could be also mentioned like on a base of the contracts with those other countries, like there could be duplicates. You can check that Evangelische Central Church, Central Archives in Berlin. So, and then you can also click on that particular state. And because also Germany on their own, they started to put some records online, some archives even for free. So then you can also check that link. It is a clickable link. Or if you don't want to wait, so you can also email them or those archives if you plan to go to those places. And then you can also click, you can see all those green links are clickable links. That green color means that those records are there online. So then it takes you that decanate, for example, Bad Homburg, like that is like a spa, should be there. When you click on that arrow, it shows you all those parishes, where are those records. And it even illustrates, if it shows 2 rings, that means marriages. If it shows like waves, that means baptismal records, like that water, right, for baptism. So if it shows like a tombstone with a cross, you know there will be burial records. But it is not a free website. I have it listed on that topical guide on our website. It takes you straight to that website. Currently, I renewed my subscription. I always use that 1 month pass, and then you have the whole month to search all the records they have there, and you can do 50 downloads. So, which is a lot. Then you can take a break. Maybe your eyes are tired from those German records. And then again, you can buy another pass, because they have three options: 1 month pass, 6 months, and I believe also for 1 year. So, and so it's not a free website, but it costs about $21, 19 euro something. If you use a PayPal, it converts that automatically, and it is about $21 you would sacrifice for that 1 month. I think it is worth it. And this is a free website, but it is for Catholic records. Primarily, that area of Germany is very well covered, which is in southern Germany, Passau area in Bavaria, Nuremberg, those areas, but also Paderborn and big archbishopry. But so you can really check when you click on that book, and then go to Deutschland, here, Deutschland, and then you can click, it goes in the alphabetical order, or you can just click to that number, and that number will split then from number 3, it will be to 2, 1, and then when you click on that particular one, you can go to that church. Like, for example, here is like Our Lord in Alba, this church, and then you can browse those records. You can check at the end, there might be handwritten index of all the names. Like I said, these are free records if you have Catholic ancestors. Keep in mind that those Catholics could change religion when they came here, but usually those Lutherans, they wouldn't, they would stay Protestants or Lutherans. So you can see we have here Roman Catholic Archbishopry in Paderborn. Then you can click on the number 20, and it will constantly be spreading around less and less until you will see one church. In our case, I gave example of Marburg St. Johannes Church by purpose, because they started to add even evangelist churches, like Lutheran churches. So then it may be worth to check. If you don't want to pay Archeon, you can first check this website, but it was created originally in Austria, and they cover also in like Serbia and some Poland and some others. So then, as I said, you don't need to learn language as a whole. So you will learn that maybe the hardest letter is the letter G. This is G. Gemeinde, Gemeinde, like Gemeinde, community. It means community. So you can know, like, there would be that village, and don't worry, everything is in our book. Some I brought also here, thanks to my colleague Julia. She collected those books. Some are available for checkout, so you can even examine that at home. So then there are various other records on German side, because then as you are more advanced, your eyes already adjusted to those handwriting styles, so you want to learn more and more. I can tell you, I know people, as I told you, we started in January 2013, that group, and there were people, they didn't know one letter in that old German script, and now they even, when I'm on the floor, they even advise other people how it can be really done. It just needs practice and practice. So you can see, if you plan to go there, definitely stop in that civil registry office, Standesamt. It was obligatory from January 1876, and at every town they needed to keep those, but some even earlier. Let them know, like I said, it's usually in the city hall. Usually next to that is a visitor information center. They might have for selling even some village lineage books. And they might give you some great advice, like where to go or where your original last name, like from which side of that region, like originally they originated. And in those archives, they might have even those permissions to emigrate. It is good to let them know ahead of time. And also mayor can, for you, possibly produce even that visitor's book. Like, could you please write your signature to that visitor's book? And for example, guild records, they started very early. So they wanted to be members of that guild, but then at one point, they didn't need more Schneiders, more tailors. So for that, you can see many, maybe your German came here as a young man and he was listed like junge Seele, that he was kind of traveling around, gathering kind of skills, those skills. But then he saw, I cannot make any living. There are already many in that guild, those tailors in that place. So then he decided to emigrate. So then military records, as I mentioned already, that those you need to know that closest town, because that there would be that recruiting center. So you can even check that or write to military archives where are military records. You can check their website in Freiburg im Breisgau. That is like the region, and it is in Baden-Württemberg state. Main archives is in Koblenz, and then there is also Arolsen archives. If your German ancestors came much later after World War II, for example, so they could be like displaced persons. So in Arolsen, Hesse, but very like northern Hesse, Hesse Castle, those Arolsen archives, any last name I could even think of in my family lineage, it showed there too. So you really never know. So it's good to just try it, and you would see, because it gives you the first names of those people, where they were from, and even more links. You just need to accept that policy to that website. Then if you cannot go there, for example, or you want to warn them that you are going there, you can definitely write them. And we have also upstairs thick red book, Ancestors in German Archives. And there are listed various even private archives, also religious archives. You never know, like, or if you have a like noble, you are searching for noble ancestors. So this book was published already some time ago, but still it may give you that glimpse for orientation, what you can find in which archives, but also for current addresses, emails, phone numbers, you can check that archive portal, this link, and also Archeon, as I already showed you, they have that current one. And for writing a letter, a short email, that website, Family Search, should be your friend. So write that short email in both languages, in English and also in German. That website, when you go to their wiki link, it shows you various examples, and you can just pick up some sentences, because there is translation of each sentence on that website, and you can combine the whole letter. You can also compare it with other translation websites. So here you can see that National Archives in Koblenz, Rhineland-Palatinate, and how it looks also inside. All right, so that's all what I wanted to take you to that long trip. And so what could be more than just visit the places of our ancestors, right? And walk the same lands, cemetery right behind the church, but don't think that you can find a tombstone and a gravesite of your ancestor, as those are rented usually. It's not like here. I was even surprised here how it works, because it works the same way like in Germany, where I'm from. And so you just pay rent, and then as those people already die, for example, they can then bury somebody else if nobody pays the rent. And as Europe cannot be that like a balloon, you cannot find more land there, right? So then, but you can think that your direct ancestor, they might have many siblings. Those siblings would have children. And as I said, like they might maybe even be searching for you as they want to make a trip to America or Canada, as your German could be originally in Canada and then come to the United States. Maybe even somebody from Canada is listening to us. And so then they might be really waiting for you, and so show you the places. So it would be worth that. So let's just say you feel Glück. See, if those two dots wouldn't be there, I would say feel Glück. So, but that changes that sound. Or we can add, instead of those two dots, what we can add behind letter U? What we can add? What kind of vowel? E, perfect, thank you. All right, so that's all. And the last slide is our contact. So please contact us, follow us on social media, write us to that email address, which stands for Midwest Genealogy Center at My Mid-Continent Public Library.